Greetings to all the students. Welcome on the YouTube platform of nextias, and you are watching Daily News Decoded, an initiative of the nextias where we discuss major articles published in the newspapers The Hindu and the Indian Express. So with the help of today's video, we are going to discuss four major articles. The first will be the major highlights of the economic survey 2024-25. The other three articles in the explain section will be core sectors of Indian economy, tiger population rise, and third, Delhi, a political history. So now start with the first article, which shows that economics fundamentals robust amid strong downsides cause the survey. That means in economic survey says that the India's economic fundamentals are robust amid strong downsides. So with this understanding, there are two things which are very major. The first is that first it highlights the aspect that says that India's economic fundamentals are robust, first point. Second, what are those things which says that there is a strong downside going on in the world wise? But before jumping into the thing, we'll first start with the economic survey. So we know that economic survey is not merely a mirror of Indian economy. It also represents a perspective of the probable future. This is the previous year's question papers which is visible. Now, talking more about Indian economic survey. Economic survey is a document which provides a summary of Indian economic performance, government policies, and the outlook for the upcoming financial year. It is divided into two parts. The part A quotes about the economic performance, reflecting on the macroeconomic indicators, certain fiscal trends, and part B talks about certain socio-economic issues like education, poverty, climate change, outlook for GDP growth, inflation, trade, etc. One very important perspective with respect to the prelims examination is that this survey is prepared by the economic division of the Department of Economic Affairs, headed by the Chief Economic Advisor. Move ahead. The first economic survey in India was introduced in 1950-51, and in 1964 it was separated from the budget, and it has since been presented independently. That means right from 1950-51 to 1964, economic survey was the part of the budget. But onwards 1964, the separation took place, and onwards 1965, there has been a practice that the budget, or I would say the economic survey, will be introduced a day before the budget. Now the point that comes to our mind is that the day before the budget, the thing is, why it is placed a day before the budget? The first thing, that it provides a comprehensive overview. It provides a comprehensive overview which sets the stage for fiscal roadmap of a country. Fiscal roadmap of a country. If I move further, you know that the budget is mainly talks about the revenue and the expenditure aspect, right? On the other hand, the EC, or I would say the economic survey, acts as a crucial backdrop and offers insights into key economic trend, certain challenges, and the outlooks associated, right? Another aspect which is of great importance with respect to the this economic survey being placed before the budget, that the sequencing, or I would say this sequencing ensures the budgetary decisions are reviewed within the broader economic landscape, within the broader economic landscape, allowing policymakers to assess that how the fiscal measures aligned with India's growth trajectory. So these are the reasons or the importance of introducing economic survey just before the budget. Moving ahead, now as the articles talk about the strong downsides. So now discuss what are those strong downsides which are tacitly said by the article. So the first will be the global and the political economic uncertainty. We know that in the global level, there are 3 different countries which recently visited or I say visible the elections. For say in India, although the person is same, policy will be same. But in Indonesia, the regime has been changed, and in USA, there has been a change in the president who was more focused towards the protectionist trade policy. That will definitely downtrain or talk a more or will cause a more turmoil, I would say, at the global economic level. Second, we have witnessed even that Europe's economic downturn is, or I would say economic slowdown is going on. The growth engine of the Europe, for say Germany, the contraction has been there for the past 2 fiscal years in Germany. Compared by, we have witnessed the change in the UK, so that means political uncertainty is there in Germany, in UK, and it has been even witnessed that the political uncertainty took place in France, leading to a snap elections took place in France, right? Adding to it, the US Federal Reserve's interest rate decision impacting global currency and the borrowing cost, and we have discussed the impact in earlier 17th of January Daily News Decoded article. Kindly follow that. The second is China's economic slowdown. We know that the post-recovery, the China is trying to gain its strength, but still the recovery is weak than expected because of deflation and financial strain is in the real estate sector. Second, the overcapacity leading to a surge in export, that means it is increasing competition for the India. One point which is of great importance, that there is the absence of a significant policy stimulus to boost domestic consumption. Means excess capacity spills. That is why we are witnessing a fiscal slippage kind of situation in China. Moving ahead, the third will be trade and supply chain disruptions. Protectionist policy, as I just talked about with respect to the President of the United States of America. Second, for say certain mechanisms like EU carbon border adjustment mechanisms, which restricts India's exports, again going against India's benefit. Second, the shipping costs even increased due to geopolitical tensions. Why? Because now the ships has to take a more wider transportation aspect because of the sea trade or the Red Sea trade disruptions taking place because of geopolitical or I would say terrorist issues. Third, there is a high dependency on China for critical components like solar energy parts, and this topic is especially linked with the help of India, or I would say you may understand this thing with respect to the case of India, that India has to get dependent upon the imports with respect to the solar energy aspect, which is a future, the solar energy is a future of trade, or I would say the future for the energy consumption aspect of India, right? Fourth, the financial and the market risk, all because of global political uncertainty or I would say economic uncertainty, there is a greater stock market volatility taking place. Rising unsecured consumer credit poses financial stability and concerns across the world. The third will be very important, that the concerns over leveraged loans and financialization trends, which is more similar to the 2008 crisis. That means you may correlate these two points and understand that the person has taken the loan but now unable to repay the loan because of the earning aspect, or I would say because of the global uncertainty that is taking place, especially with the link to the companies. Fifth, the climate change and the energy transition challenges. For say the high energy cost linked to renewable energy reliance impact industrial competitiveness. We can understand this thing with the help of this India's EV push face high import dependency. And how? Because in the the import density, I would say the import density in India or import density of India is majorly linked with those countries where the trade deficit is against India. That is why we are witnessing that India's EV push faces high import dependency. Why? Because import density is linked against the where linked to the India where the import dependency is against of India. Third, geopolitical risk in securing critical minerals for clean energy. For say solar power, for say because of so many of the wars that are taking place in the world, the transportation has stopped ad hoc or in a long-term manner. This is this part, geopolitical risk in securing critical minerals for clean energy. Another strong downside will be the domestic economic reforms and regulatory hurdles. Excessive regulation increases compliance costs for the businesses. This is nothing but a second con of the protectionist trade policy aspect. That means the country is trying to safeguard the domestic industry. That is why so much of the regulation from the side of one country against the import taking place. This is this domestic economic reform and regulatory hurdles. Food security and inflation risk. If you see, there has been extreme weather events that are taking place across the world. It is leading to a food price volatility. These all things combined into a single basket and say that the economic survey course that there are strong downsides there are in the world. Now, the flip of the article which says that amidst strong downsides, India's growth economy is robust. So, what are all those factors which are causing or which are leading us or telling us that the growth aspect is robust? So, the first is for say Economic Survey 2024-25 reveals the government's stand or government's initiative towards fiscal prudence. That means government is thinking a lot towards spending the money, or the prudence, the fiscal prudence means has taken place. This is reflected in bringing down the government debt savings. And if I talk about the government debt saving, that means the government's excess spending over its revenue earnings through borrowing to cover the difference. This is this savings. Second, this is the first part. Second, there is a revival in the consumption growth. The consumption growth. The Household Consumption Expenditure Survey 2023-24 highlights that there has been or I would say the narrowed urban-rural gap in consumption expenditure. That means for say if you are going to spend 5 rupee, let's suppose earlier they were the people living in the rural area were spending 2 rupee, but now they are spending 3 or 3.5. That means the reduction in the gap between the urban and the rural expenditure, the consumer expenditure. That means the country is becoming more inclusive. That is an aspect of the robust economic aspect. Third, the forex reserve are in a very healthy state. India in September 2024 breached 700 billion mark, right? And moderated by the end of December to 640 billion, 640.3 billion. That means India at this moment has 90%, or this amount is sufficient at least to 90% of approximately 90% of India's external debt. This capacity talks a lot about the India's economy, and the investors will definitely be having a look towards Indian economy to invest more, right? Because we have the capacity to pay the external debt that we have in today. Fourth, the asset quality of scheduled commercial banks are improving. That means their credit creation capacity is improving. The gross non-performing asset ratio has steadily declined from its peak in fiscal year 18 and reaching a 12-year low of 2.6 by September 2024. The ultimate thing is that the credit creation capacity of the Indian banks are improving. That means more loans will be given to the people, and based on the income, the budgetary aspect, the income will be there. That means the consumption expenditure will be there, and the cycle of economy will trail, which will make sure that the sufficient inflow of the money in the economy will ultimately leading to the reduction of the interest rate, will be leading to the more loans given by the banks to the people, so that the economy will be in a much booming phase in afterwards or in couple of years. But there are certain challenges that India need to tackle before the thing I just conveyed. The first is tackling the domestic agri supply chain. Economic Survey 20245 reveals that the pressures in food prices have been driven by the factors such as supply chain mismanagement or the vagaries in the extreme weather or in the vagaries in the weather conditions. The second, the announcement of the 8th Pay Commission, there will be a substantial implications on the revenue expenditure. Why? Because there is a say that around 25 to 30% of the enhancement in the salary, or I would say the wages, the salary, the pension, etc. This will definitely put a pressure on the fiscal deficit aspect of India's economy. Third, there remains a need to convert the massive population base of India to effective and productive human capital, so that India can utilize fully the demographic dividend in multiple different ways. But for that particular reason, we definitely need to augment the labor reforms in India. Again, a major challenge. Now, talk about a little bit major highlights of the Economic Survey 2024-2025. The first, it talks about the growth in the global economy, and it says that the global economy grew by 3.3% in 2023, and again by the end of 2024 it grew by 3.3%. That means a stagnant in the global economy has taken place. Now the point is, if there is a stagnation in the global economy growth rate, why it is taking place? So it is taking place because of those visible reasons for, say, international conflicts, for, say, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Hamas issue. Second, disruptions in the shipping routes, Suez Canal, other aspects. Third, cyber attacks are there in the world across the countries. Fourth, the government policy uncertainty around the trade policies. That means, for, say, if the country do not know either the Ukraine war will be end or not, then how would I think a lot towards the grain import or the grain export policy? And that will definitely be reflective in my fiscal policy, that means in the budget, right? Second, leading to it, Economic Survey says that India GDP is expected to grow between 6.3 to 6.8% in fiscal 2026. But again, if I compare it to with the narration of Viksit Bharat 2047, the Economic Survey itself says that the Indian economy need to grow more than 8% for that to for nearby 10 to 20 years, right? That means we are still far behind of achieving the targets of Viksit Bharat by 2027. Now, the best part is that the service sector remained resilient and contributed positively to the economic activity in India, or I would say Indian economy. Now, second major point is external sector. The Economic Survey says that a strong buffer against the external risk. For, say, exchange reserve stood at 64.3 billion. We just discussed that it is covering 90% of the external debt. Is a very good, healthy economic condition. Widened trade deficit. There has been a large rise in the imports and the export, widened the trade deficit from 69.7 billion to 79.5 billion in April-December 2024. That means fiscal deficit is rising. Third, rise in FDI. The FDI inflow rose 17.9%, reaching 55.6 billion. Again, this is a very better decision, or not decision, I would say, but this is a very healthy indicator. But again, there are certain challenges when we are talking towards having a strong external sector with respect to Indian economy. Those things are protectionist trade policy in the key economies are reshaping the global trade dynamics. Protectionist trade policy, as I just said, I again like to repeat that any of the time, a set of economic measures that the government uses to limit the international trade, or in the flip of it, protectionist trade policy are those when a country is trying to safeguard its domestic sector, and they may do with the help of the 3 or 4 things. The first is the tariff. The second is this exchange rate manipulation. The third, they put so much of the regulatory mechanism against the import of the commodities in their countries. So these are those ways with which the protectionist trade policies being take place by the different countries. Second, geopolitical disruptions have increased shipping costs and delivery times. These are those challenges. Third very major point is price and the inflation. Inflation is a rise in the price. Inflation. Reduced retail inflation. That means retail, we may say the CPI, right? Or I would say the retail inflation, I would say the prices of goods, or services, the prices of goods and services consumed by consumer increases over time. That means the case of CPI. RBI's commitment to price stability and government actions reduced retail inflation to 4.9 in fiscal 25 from 5.4 in fiscal 24. That means again a very healthy indicator of economy. Second, assuming a normal monsoon and no shocks, the RBI projects fiscal 26 inflation at 4.2%. Again, inflation rate which was headed, or I would say suggested by Urjit Patel committee. So India is again definitely on the robust track. Third, how or what are those challenges in attaining the targets of price and inflation in India? First, again, supply chain disruptions. Second, adverse food conditions continue to impact the food inflation. That is a major challenge. Investment and in an infrastructure. So for say increased capex. Capex means capital expenditure. Capital expenditure is for say a country is going to spend for the long term aspect in a fixed asset, for say plant, machinery, etc. This is capex. That means country is having an eye towards the long term investment aspect. So the union government's capex or key infrastructure sector grew by 38.8% from fiscal 20 to 24. This data, one more thing that you need to understand is this data that we are discussing with the help of this video is of extreme importance with respect to your prelims examination, because UPSC right from the certain decades back has a tendency to ask questions based on the data, that too over a period of 5 years, over a period of decade, etc. Increased railway connectivity. 2031 km of the railway network has been commissioned between April and November 2024. Great aspect. Under road network, 5853 km of national highways were construction in fiscal year 2025. The private sector increment. The National Infrastructure Pipeline, National Monetization Pipeline encourages the private sector involvement in the infrastructure boom in India. That means a better role for PPP in India. Next is with the help of industry, or what does economic survey talks about the industry. The first point says growth in industrial sector. It says the industrial sector is expected to grow by 6.2% in fiscal 25, driven by a robust growth in electricity and construction. First thing. Second, it is visible that smart manufacturing and industry 4.0 by supporting Samarth Udyog centers. What are those Samarth Udyog centers? These are the centers for providing assistance to industries including MSME to train workforce and make them align with the demands of Industry 4.0. This was the initiative of this Samarth Udyog centers. And again, the points for say Samarth Udyog center is being especially mentioned in the economic survey. It has a high chances to be asked by the UPSC in prelims examination. Do have a look towards it. Second, increased domestic production. The economic survey says that 99% of the smartphones are now being made domestically, which is reducing India's reliance on the imports. Third, MSME sector. The sector has emerged as a highly vibrant sector of Indian economy. Right? Now, there is a classical, or I would say there is a clear classification of MSMEs in India. So, for say, MSME stands for micro, small, medium enterprise. MSME, micro, small, medium enterprise. The micro is that the investment in the equipment will be not more than 1 crore and the annual turnover will not more than be 5 crores. Small industries, not more than 10 crore of the equipment investment and the annual turnover will not be more than 50 crores. Medium, the investment in the equipment, in the machinery, in the plants for say will not be more than 50 crores and the annual turnover not be more than 250 crores. Another aspect is service sector. For say the increased share of service sector, India's share in the global service export has steadily increased over the past 2 decades. This line is of extremely important with respect to your prelims examination. For say as of 2023, the US leads global service exports followed by UK, Germany, Ireland, and India ranks 7th, holding a 4.3% share in the global services export. Again, a very factual but important data to be understood. Largest contributor to the GVA. Now, GVA is gross value added. Gross value added. What it talks about, it is, if I correlate the relationship between GDP and the GVA, the GDP is GVA plus subsidies minus taxes on products. This is GVA. Or in a very simple layman language, it is the difference between the output and the intermediate consumption. This is gross value added, right? The service sector is the largest contributor to the India's GVA, rising from 50.6% to 55% in fiscal 2015. This is again a very important data to be followed. It employs about 30% of the workforce, and the sector also contributes indirectly to GDP through servicification of the manufacturing. Now there is a new term used by the economic survey. This servicification can be understood with the help of this this point. For say, increasing demand for embedded services. Second, encashing the strength of global trade in services. Third, adoption of digital technologies and AI in services and manufacturing. These three things combined talks or codes that servicification is taking place. Again, I would say with respect to your prelims examination, this servicification word is of great importance. Now, agriculture. The growth in agriculture. India's agriculture sector has grown as an average rate of 5.0% per year since 2022. This has been a great significant achievement in the field of agriculture. It contributes to 60% of the GDP and supports 46% of the population. The government has increased the MSP to support farmers, ensure fair returns and promote sustainable farming. MSP is a support price to the farmers to safeguard themselves with the from the fluctuations in the market. This is MSP, right? And for more detailing about the MSP, you may watch the previous videos of Daily News Decoded, dated 10th of January and 17th of January. Now, the other perspective is climate and the environment. First of all, the climate action financing is primarily domestic and international finance remains inadequate. Recently, we have witnessed that one of the president of the USA said that USA will be ousting itself from the Paris Agreement. These are definitely detrimental for the overall climate finance or climate funding kind of initiatives. Reduce carbon emission. The per capita carbon emissions are 1/3 of the global average. Again, a factual information important for your prelims. Jal Shakti Abhiyan, initiative launched by the Government of India in 2019, which focuses on water conservation and rainwater harvesting. Green Udyog Mission achieves a target of 5 million metric tons per year by 2030. PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, which quotes that 30 gigawatt of residential rooftop solar capacity by 2027. And the last, RBI's Green Deposit Framework, which encourages lending to the renewable energy. Now, why these data are important? Because of two things. First, their aim, and the second is the target 2027, 2032, 2040 or 2030 for say. Very important is social sector aspect now. The major highlights of the economic survey with respect to the social sector. Economic survey says that government social services expenditure grew 15% of CAGR from fiscal 21 to 25. The Gini-Schoff coefficient, which is a measure of inequality in the consumption expenditure, is declining. That means poverty is reducing. Government health expenditure increment increased from 29% to 48%, reducing the financial hardships endured by the households in India. For say, Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri scheme has helped reduce expenditure, saving over 1.25 lakh crore to the government. Localization of the Sustainable Development Goal. Now the government has been trying to make sure the involvement of the panchayatis in attaining the this sustainable development goals. This is the localization of the sustainable development goals. And if we can do this thing, we'll definitely in near future will achieve the targets within the specific limits. And the last, employment and the skill development, right? India's unemployment rate dropped to 3.2% in 2023-24 from 6% in 2017-18. That means the unemployment rate in India is reducing. Increased female labor force participation. It increased now 41% to 2023, especially in rural areas. That means now the women are the torch bearer of the rural economy nowadays. And that will definitely have a very positive impact upon the very different social, economic, including health aspect of her children, including education, health aspect, understanding, nutritional aspect, etc. The AI impact as well. Economic survey quotes a lot that the AI development has rapidly accelerated in the last 4 years, and it has raising their concerns upon the impact of AI upon the labor markets in India and elsewhere world especially. How? The open AI expect AI workers to be office ready by end of 2025. First thing, a major concern. Second, 40% fear AI will make their skills redundant. India needs to create 7.5 million non-farm jobs annually until 2030. That means the challenge is to make sure that this amount of educated youth or uneducated youth will be definitely need to augment their skills where they can help or get a job with respect to AI driven global economy mechanism. This is a very major challenge that economic survey testedly had put before us. Now this is the practice questions, right? Do practice it. This is a practice question for the prelims examination. Again, I would say that you people will definitely solve it out. Now, let's dive into the explained section. The first topic is India's tiger population. It says that India's tiger population rose 30% over 2 decades. It's a very important topic with respect to your prelims examination. Now, the findings of this report. Report say that India's tiger population has increased by 30% over the last 2 decades. First thing, global wildlife population have declined by 73%. Protected area allows sustenance of 85% of the breeding population. Population facilitated through corridors and sustainable land use practices. And very important thing will be that tigers now coexist with over 66 million people, proving coexistence possible. Now, UPSC may frame a statement based on these findings for say the coexistence is possible between tiger and the humans. First statement. Second, the global wildlife population has declined but not the tigers. Right? This kind of statement can UPSC may ask with respect to your prelims examination. So do follow the findings of this report. Now, the indirect topics of the tiger region pod. The first say tiger census. It has been conducted every 4 years and being conducted by National Tiger Conservation Authority with the partnership with the State Forest Department, NGOs and the Wildlife Institute of India, but majorly by National Tiger Conservation Authority. The tiger count, 75% of the world's tiger population is with India, that means 3682 tigers. The highest tigers in India is found is Corbett, followed by the Bandipur and the Nagarhole, that is in Karnataka. The largest tiger reserves, again a very important, or I would say a very similar topic which is more prevalent in UPSC prelims examination and learned by the UPSC, the tiger reserves, their importance. So, two very important aspects with respect to the tiger reserves. For say, Nagarjun Sagar Srisailam Tiger Reserves, Andhra Pradesh is the largest tiger reserve in India. Second, the Orang Tiger Reserve in Assam is the smallest tiger reserve in India. Now, NTCA, National Tiger Conservation Authority. It is a statutory body established under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, and it was established in 2006. The objectives are providing statutory authority to Project Tiger, fostering accountability of central state in management of tiger reserves, providing an insight to the parliament regarding the tiger census and other things associated of tigers. Last, addressing livelihood interests of local people surrounding the tiger reserves. And very important thing, this NTCA is being headed by the Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, not the Prime Minister, is a very important thing. Now, the practice question visible over your screen, try to practice it. Now, the second topic, the core industries of the Indian economy. We see the December core outputs hits 7 months peak. So, again, why these kind of topics are important? Just to let you know with one example. In January 2024, there is a news published in the newspaper that the import of the apples to the India risen by 40 times. Now go back to the UPSC 2024 prelims examination, you will find the question where the statement question was given, and the statement 1 was given that India does not import apples from USA. So you people must have been gone with, or just have just gone with this kind of reports or the articles. You could have got this one prelims article corrected. So with this kind of purview, this topic, the high hits 7-month peak is important. Now talk about the core industrial aspect. There are 8 core industries in India. The first is coal, crude oil, natural gas, refinery products, fertilizers, steel, cement and electricity. Do remember that iron is not a core industry. This is of great importance with respect to your prelims examination. Sometimes UPSC may frame us a question based on the weightage given. For say the coal has 10.3% weightage, crude oil has 8.98, natural gas, perhaps the fertilizer is the lowest. And the highest is the refinery product. This is the highest. So just have a view towards the highest, lowest and the weightage associated with the core industries. Again, again a very tested topic, is index of 8 core industries. This shows the performance of the 8 core industries in India, and this is prepared by the Office of Economic Advisor, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Again, very important thing. Third, the 8 core industry constitute 40.27% of the total index of industrial production. It is published monthly, the IIP, very important thing with respect to your prelims. IIP is published monthly by the National Statistical Office under Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Now again, a practice question to follow. Now the last topic of today's Daily News Decoded. It is published in the explained page of the Indian Express. Topic says Delhi, a political history. This topic is relevant with respect to your Indian polity aspect, right? GS paper 2. And in prelims, it may ask the 69th Constitutional Amendment Act, right? So this topic is important with respect to 69th Constitutional Amendment Act. Now let's dive further. The first Legislative Assembly was constituted in Delhi in 1952, and for 37 years Delhi did not have an assembly and was made a union territory. This is of great importance with respect to this point. In 1956, Delhi Assembly was abolished and Delhi was made a union territory under the direct central control. Now, why this 1956 is important? Because there might be a scenario that UPSC will make a statement under the 69th Constitutional Amendment Act that 69th Constitutional Amendment Act made a provision or abolishment of the Delhi Assembly and made Delhi a union territory, that too under the direct control of union government or central control. This is why this point is of extremely important. Now, a little bit aspect with respect to the 69th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1991. The act gave Delhi a special status, making it a union territory with a legislative assembly. This is a very important thing. Legislative powers. The assembly shall make laws on matters enumerated in state list except on 3 topics, which is public order, police and the land. That means the Delhi government cannot make laws based on the land, police and the public order. Third, the role of lieutenant governor. The act appointed the lieutenant governor as an administrator of the national capital territory, with the President of India responsible for their appointment. Now the very important thing is that the lieutenant governor of Delhi is being appointed by the President. But on the other hand, in the states, the chief minister is being appointed by the governor. But in Delhi, it is appointed by the President. It's a very important thing. Now, Article 239 AA3B grants the President of India to power make laws on the matters related to public order, police and land. That means where the Delhi government cannot make the provisions. Now, a practice question to follow, right? I hope that you people have understood, and do highline or pin down the major highlights of the economic survey with the concurrent data that we just discussed. And I hope that you people have understood a lot with the help of this video. Keep watching Daily News Decoded for your own better understanding with respect to the topics published in the newspapers. Thank you very much. Keep studying.